Hey guys, how y'all doing today? It's time for another episode of In the Zone. I'm your host TK. As you can see by the title of the video today, it's now titled Draft Aftermath. I thought we needed to have a little chat after this last draft. Some people thought the draft went pretty good. It didn't go so good for me, and I need some help from you guys, and I'm going to discuss that today. I'm going to lay it out for you. Basically, we are now going into year 7, and most of you guys should know all this. We've had owners here for 4 years, 5 years. We've got a brand new owner in here. We got 2 brand new owners in here, which also reminds me about bringing in new owners. If you bring somebody into this league, it should be your responsibility to mentor that person and let them know how things work in this league. I was a little wrong myself. I brought Blake into this league and I didn't really help him out a lot because I knew he had been getting help from Wes and RK, but it really was my responsibility. So I phoned him and I reached out to him and I let Blake know that if there's anything that he needs to get a hold of me. And I went through a few things on probably the best way to start building a team and how to get a core, et cetera, and whatnot. So if you bring somebody in the league, make sure that you're responsible for them and make sure that they know how to do it. And excuse me, you guys should also know how to do it. And I'm going to lay it out for you right here and now. And I really shouldn't have to ever say this again. So like if you can't remember it, grab a paper and pen and write it down. And I'm going to tell you how things work in this league, okay? All right, give me a second. All right, should have a pen and paper with you. Look, guys, what you need to do is know how the whole thing works. So basically, at the end of the season, when the season ends, the 1 year players at that year are all dropped off your roster. Anybody who's left on that roster is going into day 1 of the next season. And they will be on your team and on your roster until day 1 of the next season. As soon as the first puck drops, I'll be opening the waiver wire. So tomorrow, sometime, I'll be opening the waiver wire and waivers will be able to go. Currently, right now, I have about 6 people who put in for ad drops and whatnot. I'll be deleting all those today, and you'll have to resubmit them because I want everybody to have a fair chance to get whatever players are left over, okay? So don't put in ad drops until the season starts. The waiver wire is not opening until tomorrow morning, okay? So now you know that the roster you have once your 1 year players have been dropped are going in to next season, okay? 3 ways that that doesn't happen. 1, a month before the season starts, we open the league up for things that can be done. The first is you can buy out a player. Now, you know it costs $5 a year to buy out a player, but you can buy them out if you need room for roster space or cap space or whatever. So that's one way of getting rid of a player. The second way is to drop a prospect. If you're not going to sign a prospect and you don't think he's going to pan out, you can drop him. That's free. Third thing is you can do a trade. So trades open basically a month before the season starts. So now you know your rosters going into next season. The only way to get rid of anybody from those rosters are those 3 things. And it will happen that way every year. Okay, so we open up the season a month before. All right, so we got that part clear? Perfect. Now, let's talk about the draft. Okay, so the draft. Draft's supposed to be a good time. It's when we boys get together, have a few bevies, and we trash talk each other and have a good time. It's just a good excuse for us to get together once a year and do it all together in that. But I got to tell you guys, I need some help. Running this league is not easy. I know it doesn't seem like there's a lot to do, but there is a lot of work to do. And I put in a lot of work when I'm doing this league, and so does Al. And running a draft, as well as trying to pick your own team, can be very difficult, especially when the people that you're working with are not helping you out. I put a lot of thought into this. I was actually going to suggest that maybe we shouldn't do Saturdays anymore of the last week before the season starts, because I think it's the busiest day, and that the site was fucking up. But I don't think the site was fucking up. It was the people fucking up. So I'm going to talk about some stuff here. I'm not singling anybody out because a lot of different things happened. Okay. I might use you as an example, but don't take it personally because you're not the only one. There's a lot of people doing all kinds of different things wrong. Okay. Now, I want to tell you how I set this draft up. Okay. First off, I'm going to bring up our draft board. All right, so as you can see here, we've got last year's draft board. This is what we just went off for this season's draft. And as you can see, I don't do this just for the fun of it and because I'm bored. I do this for a useful tool for you guys. And this useful tool for you is when we're making trades throughout the season, you know what the other guy has, you know what you can get from another person. And that's one use of it. The second is, you should know by this draft board, just by taking a look at it, who you're going to draft and how many people and when you're going to draft them. And I'm just going to give you an example here. Let's take a look at, okay, let's take a look at the flying colors here. You see they've got 24 total players, okay? Take a look at the draft board. He's got 24 players. That means he can only draft 6 people. Unless Garrow can only draft 6 people here at the most, unless he's going to do a buyout, a trade, or drop a prospect. But let's say he doesn't do any of that stuff. Garrow should know, well, all you got to do is count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he's also got a 5th rounder from the Brewers. That's 6 players right there. Garrow's draft is now over, all right, which I probably shouldn't be telling you this part because it's helping out my competition, but Garrow, you've known this for a long time. Why did you hang on to picks 6, 7, and 8? Why not try and trade them? Maybe trade up on some of these guys, get these draft picks a little better, or offer somebody, hey, I'll give you 6, 7, 8 for your 4th rounder. And you move up one spot. But let's take a look at another. There's lots of examples here where well, let's just say, for example, somebody has 11 picks in those first 8 rounds, but they need 13 players, okay? If you got 11 picks in the first 8 rounds, 13 minus 11 is 2, okay? If you can't count like I do in my head like that, you can use a calculator and you'll find out it's just 2, okay? So now you know that you're also going to need to draft in round 9 and round 10. So going into a draft, you should know what round you're ending your draft in. We had several different people drafted over the 30-person limit. We got into a situation where we thought it was the site that was fucking up. It wasn't the site at all. It was you guys. What happens is when your roster fills up with 30 players, the CBS site will not let you draft anymore. Now you have to imagine, while this is going on, I'm writing down names saying, okay, I got to get this guy drafted and I'll put him into this guy's team after the draft. Now I've got to back the draft up 3 picks because we didn't catch it in time. And try doing all this stuff while trying to draft a team as well at the same time. And don't forget, I've had a few bevies myself because I want to enjoy this experience just like you guys. But now I've got to back it up. And I had to do this 6 or 7 or 8 times this last draft, and everything was getting confused and discombobulated. I thought it was the site screwing up, but it was just the site telling you that you don't have enough space to draft anybody else. And you should know that before going into the draft anyway. You should know, I'm done at round 10. I'm done at round 13. Now, I want to tell you the amount of work that I put into this, okay? When you take a look at this board here with all these things here, you can see here I put in the total amount of players that you've got, your year contracts and that. Well, I take a look at this and I go through it and I go, okay, Islanders, 23 players, they're going to be done by their 7th pick, okay? Not the 7th round, by their 7th pick. So basically, if we take a look at the Islanders here, they had 5 first rounders and a 2nd rounder. So they got 6 picks. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't even sure if I was going to draft that last person or not. And I eventually did take somebody in the 9th round. But I knew that that was coming. And I knew I'd have the option. It all depended how my team looked and if I got the players that I wanted or whatnot. But now here comes another important part about it. So when I customize this draft. What I do is I take a look at every team here and I find out what your totals are. And I set the draft up so that every single team is going to end up with 30 players. Now, every team doesn't want to end up with 30 players, and there's no problem with that. But I need a system to let me know who's drafting into round 15, who's stopping in round 11 and whatnot, so that I don't input you into the computer and the CBS site will bypass you when you're out. But if you're going to stop drafting before your time, like if you know you're only going to have 27 players, like I'll look at Dan for example here. He had 27 players going into it, or no, not Dan. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong board. But if you know you're stopping and you're going to leave 3 empty roster space, when you leave that draft, you have to let me know, because now the site is still going to draft for you, but now I have to physically skip it when your turn comes up for the next 3 drafts because you left early. Okay. Don't just leave the draft and don't just say hi because I'm busy. You have to make sure that the person who's in charge of the draft that year, whether it be me or myself, know that you are now done in this draft so that we can look forward ahead to skipping your picks. Okay, guys? So you can see there's a lot of work go into it, and it's pretty hard to deal with all these problems. You know, you guys are getting drunk, and believe me, I have no problem with that. That's what it's all about. That's why we're here doing it. But I do need some help. No matter how drunk I get, I'll know my figure before I go into the draft. Oh, I'm out round 10. So I know if I won't be drafting in round 15 and stuff like that. So know what you're doing going into the draft. You're going to help me out a lot. Know those 3 things that I told you, the only way that you can get a different roster than the roster you end with. Okay. So I'm going to delete all those add drop picks in there so that everybody has a fair shot at it. I'll be dropping them today. So please don't resubmit them until after puck drop of the first game tomorrow. Then you can start submitting them, and then it'll be fair for everybody to have a chance to grab the same person out of the waiver wire. Sound good? Guys, I could really use your help in that department. I would really appreciate it if that could happen. Now, I don't want to be the bad guy or anything here and just bring bad news. So I'm going to be like Santa and I come bearing gifts. Voila! There you go. Look what I have for you. I give you all 8 brand new draft picks to do with as you please, to frivolously trade them away throughout the year. Let's take a look at these ones here. See all these Bruins ones here? You can just pretty much take all these squares and take them here and put them into rounds 3 and 4 somewhere along these lines here. And that's pretty much where you'll find these 8 draft picks at the end of the year. So enjoy your new draft picks, guys. The trading starts up at the same time when we open up the league and whatnot. So enjoy your new draft picks.